In the Egyptian Sahara Desert, life is not improvisation, it is method. Before the sun rises, a Bedouin family is already moving. Every gesture has a function: guide, organize, feed, assemble, dismantle. Camels are not just transport. They are milk, sustenance, and continuity. Today, we will follow a full day in this setting where tradition and adaptation walk side by side. And if this type of documentary keeps you watching, subscribe to the channel and tell me where in the world you are watching from. The Bedouins' day begins before the light touches the dunes. The first tasks cannot wait for the heat. The herd must be reorganized, the ropes checked, and the young temporarily separated from the milking females. Nothing is done in haste. Every movement follows an order learned since childhood, and the rhythm of the family follows the rhythm of the camels. With the herd spread out, constant observation begins. Camels do not walk at random. They search for low shrubs and exposed roots, even where the ground looks empty. The herder does not rush. He follows the wind direction and the slope of the terrain. This slow movement ensures the pasture lasts a few more hours. By mid-morning, movement slows. The camels have already selected much of the available vegetation. Now the herder decides whether to stay or move. The choice is not random. He observes shrub density and the condition of the milking females. Moving too early reduces pasture. Staying too long exhausts the land. Balance defines the next step. With the sun higher, heat changes the routine. Camels naturally slow down, and the family adjusts movement to avoid excess effort during the harshest hours. This interval is not full rest. It is reorganization. Equipment is checked, milk is protected from heat, and the next direction is chosen based on memory of the territory. In early afternoon, the march resumes at a steady rhythm. The terrain changes gradually. Less loose sand, more rocky surface. The wide hooves of the dromedaries adapt easily, but the path demands extra attention from the herder. He avoids areas where sharp stones may injure the animals. The chosen route preserves the herd for the coming days. By mid-afternoon, the priority changes, finding a proper place to set a temporary camp. The choice considers natural wind shelter and enough vegetation nearby for the herd at dawn. It is not just stopping. It is positioning every element, tent, animals, and load, so the night passes without problems. The space is organized before rest even begins. As the light fades, camp dynamics change. The temperature drops quickly, and work continues at another pace. Night is a time for quiet maintenance. Tools cleaned, saddles reorganized, animals checked once more. Nothing is left for morning if it can be done now. In the desert, anticipation prevents problems. Before dawn ends, the camp wakes in silence. The fire is relit, and hot tea warms the body. Milk prepared at night is checked, and camels are closely observed. Breathing, posture, small injuries on their legs. In this cold hour, the first direction of the day is planned. Then everything moves again. With the camp dismantled, the caravan takes its traveling formation. The younger animals move in the center, protected by the steady rhythm of the adults. The order is not aesthetic, it is practical. Distributing weight, keeping mothers close to calves, and preserving the group's cadence reduces detours and delays. The movement is silent, almost mechanical. By late morning, the caravan seeks a known water point. It is not always an oasis, sometimes just a simple well used by families for years. Arrival is not a celebration, it is a procedure. Who holds the rope? Who controls the animals? Who measures the water? Order prevents waste and confusion. After water, herd behavior changes. Dromedaries tend to accelerate in the first few meters, but soon stabilize their pace. The herder observes subtle signs: slower chewing, lower head, shorter shadow beneath the body. These details show when to reduce direct sun exposure. The decision is preventive, not reactive. As the sun begins to lower, the landscape is crossed again with renewed attention. The herder identifies nearly invisible marks, old trails left by other herds, slightly compacted soil, less damaged vegetation. These signs are not on maps. They live in memory and in the repetition of routes across the years. At day's end, the stopping point is chosen based on firm ground and natural wind protection. Night is not only rest. It is time to process collected milk, check ropes, organize loads, and prepare the next move. Each task reduces uncertainty for sunrise. Before dawn, camp is packed with minimal noise. The cold helps the work, sand is firm, animals are calm, and visibility improves as the sky brightens. The herder checks direction using horizon and night sky references. Departure happens early, to use the most stable hours of the day. As the sun rises, morning becomes a work window. It is when distance is covered and urgent matters are solved, redistributing loads, adjusting loosened harnesses, quickly separating a more tired female from the main flow. The goal is simple: keep the herd uniform. Uneven rhythm becomes a bigger problem hours later. As terrain changes, effort changes too. Short climbs require adjusting distance between animals, and descents demand attention to load weight. The herder does not watch only the path. He watches how each dromedary responds. Small corrections now prevent accumulated wear over the week. By mid-afternoon, movement slows not from exhaustion, but strategy. This is when the herd is allowed to forage more freely. The family observes which plants still resist the dry season and which must be spared. What is eaten today affects the possibility of returning to the same land later. With the sun lower, the family chooses a temporary point for the last activity of the day, milking some females. Not all milk is taken. Part remains for the calf. Collection is direct, manual, and quick. What is gathered now complements the evening meal and may be processed the next day. At dusk, before setting final rest, there is a moment of invisible maintenance. Small tiers are sewn, leather parts oiled, containers reorganized. Nothing is easily discarded in the desert. Each object stays with the family for years. Caring for equipment is extending mobility itself. With night settled, the camp takes another role, preserving what was produced during the day. Some milk is consumed fresh. Another part is prepared to last longer. Day heat no longer interferes. Night organization ensures nothing must be improvised at dawn. Before the sun fully rises, part of the work begins away from the animals. Flour is measured, water is calculated, and the fire is relit with precision. The bread prepared at this hour accompanies the whole day's journey. Feeding the family early means reducing long stops later. With the first meal finished, preparation begins for a longer stretch of travel. Not every day is the same. Sometimes it is necessary to cross more open areas, where visual reference is minimal. Orientation depends on reading the distant terrain and maintaining a constant direction. Not every stretch is completely open. Sometimes the route crosses softer sand areas, where the step must be shortened. The family slows down and observes how each animal sinks into the ground. Adjusting rhythm here avoids excess wear and keeps energy reserves for the rest of the route. After crossing the loose sand area, the landscape offers small rocky elevations again. These points serve as references and also as temporary shelter from crosswinds. Route choice is not only about shortening distance, but preserving stability during continuous travel. In the middle of the journey, there is a point of exchange. It is not always a structured market. Sometimes it is just a brief meeting between families traveling similar routes. Dried milk, treated leather, or information about nearby wells circulate quietly. Mobility depends as much on the path as on these silent connections. If this unexpected desert encounter is keeping you watching, leave a comment telling where you are following this journey from. After the meeting, the route continues with a clear goal: reaching an area where vegetation indicates underground moisture. It is not a large oasis, but a known point for the family. The approach is cautious. Water is never treated as abundant, only as a temporary resource. With water stored, the family resumes a steadier rhythm. Now the focus is reaching a higher point before late afternoon. Sleeping on slightly elevated ground reduces night humidity and improves visibility around the camp. Choosing the resting place begins hours before stopping. With the high point confirmed, the camp is set up functionally. The tent orientation follows the dominant wind. Animals are positioned in a semicircle, protecting the central area. Each element has a defined place. Space organization determines night quality and departure speed at dawn. With the camp structured, the night takes its own rhythm. Tasks decrease, but vigilance does not disappear. Wind changes intensity. temperature drops, and animals settle permanently. In this silent interval, the day closes and the next begins to be planned. When the new day begins, the cycle repeats, but never identically. Each movement leaves subtle marks in the sand and accumulated decisions in memory. Living in the Sahara is not resisting the desert, it is understanding its limits. Between sand, wind, and silence, Bedouin routine continues. Mobile, precise, and adapted to what the landscape allows. And if this journey through the Sahara revealed something new to you, subscribe to follow the next documentaries. Comment where you are watching from. It's interesting to know how far these routes cross the world. This video is a visual and narrative recreation, made with the support of artificial intelligence, for educational and entertainment purposes. The scenes are illustrative and may not accurately represent real animal behavior or the environments portrayed.